Hello, Ian 102 online students. Professor Berninger coming at you. It's Sunday afternoon, about 2:30, and I want to answer your excellent, probing, perfect questions about a party down at the square. And you also did a good job answering. You weren't all right in your answers, but that's okay, right? This isn't math class. Being right is not necessarily what we're striving for. Some of you are, I think, off just a little bit, but that's okay. That is perfectly fine, because if you all were perfect at executing literary analysis, you wouldn't need me, and then I wouldn't have a job, and that would be really bad. So I'm just going to dive right into your questions here because they do cut to the heart of the matter. First, someone asked about the setting, like what time period is this? So that's a really important question for this story. It was published in 1996. Okay, this doesn't seem like 1996, and Ralph Ellison died before that. So what is going on here? Well, we have to look at the technology, right? Someday, 100 years from now, when no one carries a cell phone anymore and those things are long gone out of people's lives, there'll be a short story written in 2020 with someone with a cell phone. And they'll say, oh, you know, that's like 2020 when everybody carried around these little square, these rectangular things and they poked at them. So this story, we have technology. We have cars. So we know it's probably after 1910. There are still horses around. So it's probably before World War II, the 1940s. And there is an airliner, there's an airplane, and when they look up, it's from TWA, an early airline, Trans World Airlines, which was founded in July of 1930. So between the horses, cars, a TWA plane, there is electricity. We can peg this as the 1930s. Of course, there's also an open lynching, right? These things did start to fade away and were gone by the 1960s. So this is the 1930s, and clearly it's the Deep South, very likely Alabama. So Alabama, Mississippi, that's the Deep South, and that's important. A couple of you also asked about the narrator. The narrator is a white boy, maybe 12, I don't know, from Cincinnati. He is a white boy from up north in Cincinnati. So he would not have been brought up with lynchings, right? He would not have been brought up with lynchings. So that's important. So we're in the Deep South, probably Alabama, 1930s. And we'll get into what a lynching is as we work through your questions. Cole Brennan, my first question would be, why the black man was subject to being burned and tortured in the first place? What made the townspeople specifically pick that man, or was he just like livestock, picked at random and killed for their entertainment? Yes, Cole, excellent question. The goals of a lynching, okay? So lynching is mob justice, and the traditional is a mob of white people killing a black, usually man or two. Though a number of lynchings were against white people, and they were usually people who were sympathetic to the plight of black people in their very subjugated, to say the least, role in the Deep South. Between 1880 and 1960, there were well over 4,000 lynchings. There was one time period of about 30 years just before this time period where there were about 100 of these lynchings a year. That's one every 3 days. Lynching on Monday, lynching on Wednesday, lynching on Saturday, lynching on Tuesday, all in the Deep South. This is not to say the North is some bastion of loving, huggy, non-racist people, okay? But this type of mob justice lynching was fairly unique to the southern states, with some terrible exceptions. So the goal of a lynching, there are actually a few. Number one, it is to establish and maintain white superiority over black people. To establish, reestablish, and maintain, to terrorize black people so that they will stay submissive, They will not fight for the right to vote. They will not fight for equal rights. They will not demand to be paid what white people get paid to, say, pick cotton. Number two, it is a mass ritual with fire and a mob, and that builds white community, right? It bonds the white people together with this common target of black people. Because the natural friend of the black person should be the poor white person, right? Most black people were very poor at the time. They should be shoulder to shoulder, right? Brother and sister with poor white people trying to improve their conditions. So the white middle upper class, they had a vested interest in preventing that kind of bond or union, because then who knows, the poor might gain power. So these were meant to bond the white community together in this burning, hateful, evil ritual. Secondly, they're a teaching tool to young people. So kids were very welcome there, and kids would learn that they were, in fact, this is good. This is what happens. This is normal. That's why the narrator has to be from the North, because it is not normal to him. So Cole's question, why was this guy picked? Probably no reason at all. Usually the made up reason, there was usually a made up reason, was that a black man had done something to a white woman, whistled at her, touched her, raped her. And almost always these were trumped up. These were false charges. So there was also this fear among white men that the black men were going to come take their women. So they had to defend white womanhood. And any black man that came near a white woman would be lynched, and it would send a message. So protect white womanhood, teach young people that they are racially superior, young white people, build white community against the black community, and establish racial superiority. Those are the 4 goals of lynchings. How were the people less concerned about a woman of the town dying, a plane crashing in a tornado, than watching the black man burn? Well, Cole, that just shows how frenzied these people are, right? I don't know if you guys have ever been a part of a mob, and mobs are not always bad, but if you're at a football game, any sporting event, a concert, when the whole group is into something, it is intoxicating. I'm not really a mob person myself. I usually don't get sucked in sometimes, but not rarely. Some people love it and live for it. And it's perfectly fine if it's something innocent is going on. But this is the true mob mentality, right? Get that guy, burn that guy. And all of the chaos around them, they just zone it out. So good question, Cole. Good question. All right, good ones. Questions, I got another group here. Again, all of your questions were great. Some of them were a little redundant, which is fine. So I'm just picking ones that I think are building to our point. Sylvia, why is it called a party? Well, that's what it was called. It is a party, right? If you Google image search lynchings, you will come upon images that if you take out the black man who's hanging in the tree dead, it looks like a party. People are well dressed. Sometimes people brought a dish to pass, right? It was a party. Another word was picnic, right? And these were sort of code words. You wouldn't put a poster up in town or spread word that, hey, we're killing a black guy tonight. And they wouldn't say black guy. They use the N-word. I don't use the N-word. There are a lot of words I'll use related to literature, but that word is the worst word in our language. It's okay that Ralph Ellison does, because he's African American, and it's exactly the word these people would have used. Anyway, they were advertised, word spread as picnics, as parties, because that's pretty much what they were. How are the storm, plane crash, and burning tied together? Ooh, good one, Sylvia. Of course, storms in literature often bring chaos, and out of chaos comes a new order. And Ralph Ellison this is actually a somewhat optimistic story, as horrible as the outcome for the black man is. When storms come, this happens in Shakespeare a lot, everything is shaken up, and this happens in your own life if you ever had a storm in your life. And out of that chaos comes a new order, right? Out of chaos comes a new order of things. And the storm and the plane crash, and the plane doesn't quite crash, okay? So let's pause, hit the pause button. The TWA plane is flying along. It's a foggy night, and this is pretty primitive. Airports would light fires so planes could see where to land. And this guy sees the fire to burn the black man, the pilot, and he's coming down and realizes, whoa, this isn't the airport. The landing gear hits the power lines, and then the plane takes off up out of the sparks and the fire. Now what flies up out of ashes and fire? Ding, ding, ding. Excellent. A phoenix, right? The mythological bird. And one of the fictitious towns mentioned here is Phoenix City, not Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix City, Phenix. And this is the black man. The plane represents the burned black man. The plane is an iron bird and comes down and comes and rises from the ashes. And Ralph Ellison at the end is saying, the black man will rise from these ashes. And Excellent Sylvia is a cropper, a farmer. A cropper is the lowest level of farmer in existence, a sharecropper. So a sharecropper, one person would own 1,000 acres of land, and a sharecropper would come, and the owner of the land would say, okay, you can do these, you farm these 100 acres, here's a mule and a plow, but at the end of the year, you owe me shares. You owe me 40 bushels of wheat, 10 bales of tobacco, some firewood, eggs, right? I get a share of your crop. And it's a very low level existence. You don't own land, you never get ahead. It's bad. So sharecroppers is what dirt poor white people and dirt poor black people did. And the cropper at the end is important. We're gonna get to that last paragraph. It's all right there in the last paragraph. Quinn Hogan, do you believe people become who they are due to how they were brought up, or do you believe people become who they are due to how they were brought up, or by who they're brought to themselves to be? Well, Quinn, that's a good question. That's nurture. Are you who you were raised to be? Or nature, are you your genetics, right? The code inside you, and of course the answer is both. But Quinn, good question here, because I think our narrator, our white boy from the north, since he is disgusted by this, and he would not have been if he was raised in the South with violently racist people, like the people in the story, I think the message in the story, Quinn, is that you have to be raised to be like racist. You have to be raised to be racist. It is not in our genetic code. Now, I don't know the truth. It's probably a mix of both. But Ellison is saying this boy, who at the end is not a racist. He doesn't want to go to any more of these parties. He's not like, yeah, parties. He's out. He doesn't want to go to any more. He ends up admiring the guy who was killed, okay? So the answer to your question, Quinn, as far as this story goes, is you're raised to be a racist, which is good because that means you can be unraised. You can be deprogrammed as an adult, I hope. Okay, does anyone know why the man of color wants his throat cut like a Christian? Or how that is Christian-like? Well, a Christian, if this guy, here's choice A, slowly burn to death. Choice B, get your throat cut. I'll take choice B, thank you very much. So he knows he's dying, being killed slowly, being tortured, and he wants to be done faster and in a very dignified, polite way. By far the most dignified, civilized person in the story is the black man being lynched. He asked to have his throat cut. And Jed, the head racist, who's going to run for sheriff, the head law enforcement officer of the county, based on being the lynching leader, he's like, ain't no Christians, ain't no Jew boys either, we're all Americans. And he's saying, white America is America. Right? We're Americans, you're not. We're killing you. We're killing you. Good questions, good questions. Amanda, what time frame? Good, we got that one. Yeah. Okay, good. Actually, we already answered those. Ugh, why does Ned keep the burnt fingers of the lynching victims? It's a trophy. It's gross. My stomach's turning just talking about it. It's a trophy, right? These are sick people who get off on violence, and they get addicted to it, and he can pull that out. Do you think the narrator was a coward for not standing up for the black man and trying to stop what was happening? No, because he's a kid. Okay, Dakota, he's a kid, and I think our author purposefully makes him a kid because this kid doesn't stand there and intellectualize or even understand what's going on, right? And he tells the story like a kid, right? He's like, and then this happened, and then that happened, and then this happened, right? Like when a kid tells a story, gets very animated. So as a kid, surrounded by a mob, I don't fault him for not standing up and trying to help. So, you know, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah, a couple of you asked this question, and I've never thought of this before. You guys are good. What do you think the boy is going to tell his friends when he gets back home? He's probably going to tell them all about it. Like the crazy thing that it is. Maybe that's what the story is. Maybe he's telling it to people. So I'm going to shoot up a part 2 of this video because we don't want to make them too long. So A Party Down at the Square by Ralph Ellison, part 1 wrapped up, and we'll do part 2 in a minute.